Alright, the Lakers have been making a ton of moves in the past few days now, and it might be a bit hard to follow if you're not a hardcore fan. I mean, they started by signing Marcus Smart off the buyout market. That was kind of the first domino to fall for them and kind of started off the mayhem. Then to accommodate that and to actually fit his salary on their payroll, they had to then waive both Shake Milton and Jordan Goodwin, which was then followed up by re-signing Christian Koloko to a two-way contract, and then signing Chris Manon to a two-way contract, which was then finally finished by them waiving Trey Jemison from his two-way contract. And quick update, Eric Dixon is not under a two-way contract, that is confirmed, so he's not part of their team and won't be part of their team going forward unless they re-up and eventually do sign him to a two-way contract, I guess. But with all the moving parts and their roster now looking completely different than it was a month ago, what's the takeaway here? Is it better? Is it worse? In what ways is it better or worse? What do they do or what do they still need to do with it? And will this actually be their day one roster in the NBA season? Or should it be for that fact? We'll talk about that, the assets they have left to work with, their current payroll and why that's actually very important, and if they will make their final addition or not, or how long it'll take for them to get to that point, and simply break down the Lakers' new look roster here. So without further ado, beginning with a brief breakdown of their payroll and their remaining assets. After all, they do have one open roster spot left, so many are wondering if they will fill that, or if they should fill that, and what player they might fill it with. And well, at the current moment, they literally can't do that. Whether you're talking about a free agent, maybe a potential buyout market candidate, they can't fill it because they don't have enough space under the first apron. Right now, they're roughly $1 million below the first apron, and if you're talking about signing a player to a veteran minimum contract, even that would push them over that first apron. So barring them making a trade to kind of salary dump a player, finding some way to simply get below the first apron more, they can't fill that spot until they do that. However, they do have an open two-way contract that they would be allowed to fill. Two-way contracts don't count against the cap or the first apron for that fact, so they do have the ability to sign that player or sign a player to a two-way contract if they want to do that right now. Following them waiving Trey Jemison, that created a two-way contract spot for their team, and you know, if they're pointing to what they didn't address via two-way contract yet, it would be a bigger wing player. Addressing the backcourt player with Chris Manon, who they just signed today, obviously having Christian Koloko, who plays the 5 for them. If they would want to kind of diversify their two-way contracts and get one at every spot, then I would look to a small forward, power forward, bigger forward that ideally could be kind of a 3-and-D prospect. That's what I would look for. But then talking about their assets and if they would want to pursue a trade, either right now or leading up to the trade deadline, they do have a good amount of them left. Talking about player assets like Dalton Connect, though his trade value has definitely been in decline for some time now. Even guys like Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, if they want to trade them, which I don't think they will, and expiring contracts like Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber, definitely having plenty of salary and some assets to work with there. Then for their draft picks, they have their 2031 future first-round draft pick, or in 2032, either one is tradable. Then have 4 future first-round draft pick swaps, being in 2026, 2028, 2030, and 2032, then 1 tradable second-round draft pick in 2032, which kind of encompasses their trade assets and if they would want to go that route. But then finally for their actual roster and what we're looking at here with it, is it complete and is this what it will be for their day 1 rotation and day 1 roster? Maybe. At this point, I wouldn't be against it, and they have primarily filled every spot in their team and every major need they had left, though there might be one up for debate yet, that being a 3-and-D wing, which we'll eventually get to. But breaking down their roster position by position, and starting with point guard here, this might be their deepest one. I mean, everyone from Luka Doncic, Marcus Smart, Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, LeBron James, they have plenty of options to play point guard. Every one of them can do it, and we're talking about 2 of the highest level playmakers in the entire NBA here. Obviously Luka and LeBron. They are absolutely elite and definitely can be a floor general, lead the offense, and obviously they have proven that time and time again. But even if they're hurt or sitting out a game, they obviously have Austin Reeves, who took a leap in that last season and has continued to show that he does have playmaking ability and to be a point guard and kind of a backup floor general for a team too. So having him as a backup playmaker, obviously can play on the ball, off the ball, all around this is a very talented group for them, which got only even more talented and more deeper after signing Marcus Smart. You know, we often think of him as a defensive-minded pest out there, that's pretty much what he does, but Then again, he's also a pretty good point guard too. Having a career average of over 4.5 assists per game to under 2 turnovers per game, that being over a 2 assist to turnover ratio, obviously playing point guard for many playoff teams with Boston, having over 100 playoff games to his name and under his belt, so that's yet another valuable asset they have to their team. His ability to play point guard, then guarding point guards or shooting guards, even smaller wings on defense, that's definitely a good addition to their team. Then I guess for kind of the final name in that list, Gabe Vincent, not really a true point guard by any means, and he's kind of the last one that's having a changing role entering next season. Now with the addition of Marcus Smart, he probably won't get as much playing time. Many believe he might be traded, and his role with their team is definitely under question going forward. All around though, I definitely like their point guard spot, having plenty of depth, having plenty of talent, having now some two-way talent at point guard, and this might be my favorite spot in their entire team. And you know, if you really want to, you could even name Bronny and Chris Manon to that list too, both of which have played some point guard, more so are combo guards that kind of more so lean at shooting guard, but even can add them to that list if you want to. But then moving on to shooting guard, and once again at pretty damn good depth here as well. Starting shooting guard will be Austin Reeves to their team, or at least I think he probably will be. Barring them switching him for Marcus Smart or maybe making a different trade, I think that's likely the route for them to take. I mean, I think it would take a gigantic thing for them to do that, and probably something they don't want to do. I think we often underestimate team chemistry and team continuity. The fact that if you change a guy that's been in one role for quite some time, Austin having played that role for their team for roughly half a decade at this point, that can be a change that might not always be worth it, though I wouldn't completely put it off the table. But then after Austin, we got Marcus Smart, Gabe Vincent, Dalton Knecht, Bronny James, Chris Manon, and even I guess if you want to, you could throw in both Jake LaRavia and Adu Thero, though they're more bigger wings in my opinion. But for their backup shooting guard depth, this will be occupied primarily by Marcus Smart, Dalton Knecht, and Gabe Vincent, with Smart likely to take up the bulk of the backup shooting guard minutes. Yes, he'll play a little bit of backup point guard, but between both Luka, LeBron, and Austin, they'll be on the court at all times and more so be their primary ball handler and thus make Marcus Smart more of an off-ball shooting guard. Where he definitely has been a bit inconsistent, you know, he's a pretty good playmaker, but when he plays off the ball, he can definitely be up and down. Being a 32% career three-point shooter, having good moments, but definitely not being very reliable, only having one season shooting above 35% from 3, only being a 35.3% corner three-point shooter, so this is something that he'll definitely have to work at and definitely have to prove some people wrong too. I'm definitely hoping for it. If he can be at least an average three-point shooter and really take advantage of the attention that Luka, LeBron, and Austin draw away from him, then he could be a valuable addition to not only their defense, but also their offense too. Then for Gabe Vincent, really hoping for a more consistent year for him. Last season, he was absolutely terrible from October through November, but then from December to all the way to April, shot roughly 38% from 3. So if he can maintain that and actually begin the season that way, then he might sway the attention and change a few Laker fans' opinions, who many of which don't want him on the team and definitely aren't too fond of him. So hoping for that with Gabe Vincent, also hoping for a rebound for Dalton Knecht, not finishing the year that well, not playing well with their summer league team, and also having many Laker fans doubting him and wanting him off the team for that fact too. And for Dalton Knecht, playing time will definitely be a bit harder to come by, especially compared to their opening day roster last season. It will be harder to get playing time for himself, likely won't be an option for their starting lineup again, which he was for about 16 games last season, in which he averaged roughly 17 points per game on 39.5% three-point shooting, showing what he can do with better playmakers on the court and when he gets into a rhythm and when he's actually comfortable on their team. Hopefully he can get back to that, but it will be harder for him to do, and I wouldn't be entirely shocked to eventually see him traded, either for better or worse. And then for Bronny, also don't see him getting much of any playing time, following the addition of Marcus Smart and then keeping Gabe Vincent so far, also keeping Dalton Knecht so far, definitely a pretty tough pathway to playing time for him. Or then for Chris Manon, you know, they just signed him. I like the addition, but he's definitely not NBA ready quite yet, at least not offensively. Great defender, great defensive playmaker, definitely looking forward to watching him throughout training camp in preseason, but unless he can improve offensively very rapidly, improving his three-point shooting, improving his off-ball play, then he definitely won't be a viable option for the rotation. But then moving on to small forward, and once again we have a pretty deep and versatile group. Right now the starting small forward is looking to be Rui Hachimura again. If you really want to, you can switch him and LeBron, but it doesn't really matter that much. Defensively, Rui is often the guy that has to take on the small forward matchup, usually the tougher of the wing matchups anyway. LeBron takes the easier matchup to play off the ball more and conserve energy, while Rui is kind of forced into that tougher defensive role, which is not really a role that's suited for him. And if you ask me, I would kind of be in favor of switching him and Jared Vanderbilt, that being in their starting lineup, and I guess that's a topic for another day. But for their complete small forward group, we got Rui Hachimura, the new addition of Jake LaRavia, Jared Vanderbilt, Adu Thero. If you want to, you can count Dalton Connect here, and LeBron despite playing more power forward at this point. And well, this might be their weakest group, or maybe their second weakest group. The one that definitely has plenty to prove at this point. Rui Hachimura in the starting lineup, always kind of being up for a conversation and up for debate if he should be in there. Not anything against Rui Hachimura, but again with the defense, having that good point of attack and good wing defender for that fact, not really having one at the moment. Maybe that could eventually be filled by Jake LaRavia one day. Maybe temporarily that could be filled better by Jared Vanderbilt on defense. Maybe long down the line Adu Thero could fill that role for them, but right now it's kind of a toss-up and not something they currently have filled on both ends of the court. Hachimura obviously being a great fit offensively, showing that in leading their team in 3-point percentage in both of the past 2 years now. But they do have a subtraction from this position, also at their power forward spot with Dorian Finney-Smith, and no, there are some questions that need to be answered. Can anyone kind of replicate that or kind of fill the void left by Finney-Smith? Can Hachimura do that? Can Jake LaRavia do that? Can Vanderbilt kind of step up and get back to what he once was for their team? That's kind of the debate here with their small forward group. I mean, definitely plenty of playing time to potentially go around here. Hachimura obviously filling a big role for their team, but after that point could be a toss-up between Jake LaRavia, Jared Vanderbilt, and Dalton Connect, and maybe even Adu Thero too. But with positions kind of being positionless at this point, not much of a difference between small forward and power forward with their team, which at the starting spot will be occupied by LeBron James, no question about that, followed up with Rui Hachimura, who also plays there quite a bit, mainly when LeBron goes to the bench and then Rui Hachimura shifts to power forward, Jake LaRavia off the bench, Jared Vanderbilt off the bench, Adu Thero off the bench, even Maxi Kleber might play here off and on, and maybe even a little bit of Jackson Hayes here and there too. Though obviously we have LeBron James at power forward, that will be the guy that takes up the bulk of their power forward minutes, though he is mainly playing there defensively, not really offensively. Defensively, that's kind of filled by a combination of himself, Luka Doncic, and Rui Hachimura depending on the matchup. And well, once again, they don't have a great option for defense in their starting lineup. If Vanderbilt would enter it, then he could take on the bigger wing matchups, but again, I guess that's a topic for another day. Overall though, once again, pretty good depth at power forward. Looking forward to if Adu Thero can get any playing time here, if he can prove to be a good defensive option in their rotation, if Maxi Kleber can offer some versatility here at the 4. I'm more intrigued with him playing at the 5 in some matchups, but even here and there might be valuable to play at power forward, giving them kind of a 2 big lineup kind of look. That could be something to look forward here with their power forward spot. But then finally finishing up at center, here we have a new face and definitely a welcome addition to their starting lineup, that being DeAndre Ayton. Obviously taking over for Jackson Hayes, who they also brought back, now rightfully being their backup center, not their starting center like he was post-trade deadline, even though he did play pretty well during the regular season. Didn't quite live up to it during the postseason and definitely fell out of trust with JJ Redick. Also bringing back Christian Koloko behind them, re-signing him earlier today via 2-way contract, and after a really good Summer League performance and some good moments last season, I was happy to see it with Christian Koloko. So he currently slots as their third center, Hayes as their backup center, and DeAndre Ayton as their definitive de facto number 1 starting center, which will definitely be fun to watch play out. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's put up all-star numbers, has been a very good talent in the postseason even, all the way up to an NBA Finals run back in the day with Phoenix, so definitely has the background of what they want, definitely has the skill set they're looking for to pair with Luka Doncic, even the age to pair with his timeline eventually, but are some major red flags with him here too, so it will be interesting to watch play out with him. What version are they going to get of DeAndre Ayton? Will it be the one that he kind of promised during his introductory press conference, saying that he'll be more locked in and that he's determined to prove the doubters wrong, and simply that he wants to fill the role that they want him to fill. Will he do that, or will he revert back to the DeAndre Ayton that's been a bit selfish at times, not very committed on defense at times, and isn't really too willing to play the teammate role if he's not heavily revolved and kind of prioritized within the offense? That will definitely be interesting to watch play out, but regardless, they definitely upgrade their center spot, adding DeAndre Ayton without giving up a single trade asset. Very impressive work and definitely a much needed addition to their center group. And between himself, Jackson Hayes, Christian Koloko, and not to mention Maxi Kleber, they actually have a pretty solid group and a pretty versatile group too. Ayton offering versatility on offense with his mid-range shooting, offering some switchability on defense along with some solid rim protection. Hayes offering some decent switchability, albeit some kind of volatile play on defense, but did show improvement last season. Koloko continuing to work his way back from that blood clot and looked to be very good and healthy throughout Summer League. Kleber being a bit older, but offering plenty of versatility on defense, offering some switchability, a little bit of rim protection, then being their only 5 option that actually can offer some 3-point shooting on offense too. So between the 4 of them, I do like their center group. Maybe they eventually look to make one more addition to it, adding either a second option for a better backup 5 or maybe a third option behind Hayes. Whatever they plan to do, I think it's a much better group than what they finished with last season. And overall here, they have a pretty good and pretty deep team all around. Again, my one complaint would be a true proven 3-and-D wing option. Love that they addressed the backcourt defensive option with Marcus Smart. Like what they did with Jake LaRavia, like what they did with Adu Thero by drafting him, but not quite perfectly filled that spot yet, and that's my last thing that I'm looking for them to either fill or prove me wrong, I guess, too. But with all of that being said here, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the Lakers' new look roster and the additions they have made, the subtractions they have made, the recent addition of Marcus Smart, the recent loss of Jordan Goodwin and Shake Milton, and simply about their new look team and if this will actually be their team going forward? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.